It is time for another classic video on my channel, the ultimate book video, and I've got a lot on the agenda today. If you're new here, hi, my name's Katie. I love talking about books, reviewing books, just all things books on my channel. And I guess we're just gonna keep this intro short and sweet because that's really all I've gotta say. We're gonna go ahead and start off by talking about my current reads. I'm currently reading 2 books right now, one on audio and one on my lovely Kindle. I also just realized I'm kind of matching my Kindle case today, which is really fun, but I'm currently reading In Her Own League by Liz Tom Ford. This is a Windy City spin-off book. And if you're not familiar, the Windy Cities is an interconnected sports romance series where each book is following a different sport and a different couple. I really enjoyed the series and just finished it last month. So when I knew this one was coming out, I instantly went for it because they're free on Kindle Unlimited. Well, not free, but for some reason, downloading a book off Kindle Unlimited kind of makes it feel like it's free, or it's from like my library. I don't know what kind of logic there is in that, but that's how I think of it. But this is a spin-off of the series because we are following the coach of the Windy City Warriors, Monty. And in the Windy City series, there are 2 books with male main characters who are baseball players, Isaiah and Kai. Love them to pieces. We love the Rhodes brothers. And he was heavily featured in those books. So we got to know him quite well. And then we are also following Reese Remington, who is the new owner of the baseball team. I am currently 14% through right now. Honestly, not a lot has happened, but I really like her writing. It's really easy to read. And again, these are just fun, brain off books that just bring me a lot of joy. And then I just started a new audiobook yesterday, which I am very excited about, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm currently on chapter 3, so I just started it, and my plan is to finish it so Luke and I can go see the movie on Tuesday, and it is currently Thursday whenever I'm filming this. So I've got a few days. I'm really gonna try and lock in. The main reason why I want to do it on Tuesday is because Tuesdays are like half price or just like $5 movie nights. And because they're so cheap, that's normally whenever Luke and I would go see a movie. So I'm crossing my fingers I can get it done by then. Now, as for what we're going to be doing right now, I have quite a lot of books next to me that I read during the winter time and during the month of March. If you guys are interested in watching those wrap-ups, I'll leave them linked down below. But I have not found a home on my bookshelves for any of the books that I've read recently, so that's what we're going to be doing right now. We're going to start off with all of the romances that I've read recently. I'm pretty sure I know where the majority of these are going. Good Spirits by B.K. Borison is going to go right next to my other book by her, First Time Caller, because that's the only other book that I have of hers, and I like to keep like authors together. Honestly, feel like it fits nicely with the color scheme we got going on up here too. And then I also have the last 3 books in the Windy City series. That's also going to be going up here. Move my Sunny Angel briefly. I'm also going to scoot all these up. I don't know why they're so far back. Play Along, without a doubt, is my favorite from this series. It was so good. I rated it 5 stars, which is very rare for me with this kind of like spicier romance book, but it was just so good. Putting my Sunny back, and that is that shelf finished. And this right here is one of the reasons why sometimes I put off putting the books that I finished recently on my shelves until I have like a few months worth, because it's just really fun putting a big group of books up at one time, because it really does transform the shelves and make them look completely different. And it's fun to like do a little bit of reorganization here and there, but it's like crazy how much fuller this shelf is with how many books I just put up there. I don't know. I just love it. Next is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. I'm gonna put this right next to A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And then I also have The Good Part by Sophie Cousins, and I honestly think I'm either gonna put it on this shelf or I'm gonna put it down below with just like a lot of other random standalone romance books I have. But since it has magical realism in it, I feel like it fits up here with like my Ashley Poston Sangumandana book, so I'm gonna put it up here as well. Next, we're gonna add all of my historical and literary fiction reads that I've read recently, and I've got quite a few to add to this shelf, which I'm very excited about. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take off all of these little knickknacks for now, since I think I'm gonna reorganize this shelf quite a bit. All of these books are gonna fall without my TBR. Yep. Okay, yep, here we go. Anyways, like I was saying, all of these books are gonna fall without my TBR jar to hold them up, so I'm just gonna take them all off for now, and then we shall reorganize accordingly. I also don't know if I want to display a different book this time around, so I'm gonna take this one off as well. I do still love The Great Alone though, but sometimes I like to freshen it up with what books I end up displaying. We still got my classics right here to start, but I think what I'm gonna do first is put up the authors that I only have 1 book of. Then I'm gonna do the Beartown trilogy. Then let's do Taylor Jenkins Reid. Emma M. Lyon. I love how fun and colorful these are. And then my girl, Kristen Hanna. And I know I said I might not, but I am gonna display The Great Alone again, just because it deserves it. It's so good. We might need to find a new home on my bookshelves for my chai jelly cat, but I really like the way that this shelf looks now. It's so much fuller. And I personally really like the look of hardcovers and paperback mixed together. I don't know why, it just gives me more of a, I guess, homey and cozy type of feel whenever the bookshelves aren't perfect. I am a perfectionist, like actually a raging perfectionist, and this is something that I've had to let go of. So doing stuff like this is kind of exposure therapy for me a little bit, and I'm starting to actually really like it. So yay. Those are all the books for my romance shelf. Let's go ahead and pop over to the other side. I have a lot less books to put up on this side, so let's do this quickly. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes is gonna go up on my mystery shelf with my natural series. Next, I have the rest of the Crescent City series. I'm just gonna put this where I put the first one. I might have to find a new spot for this plant though. Going back to our perfectionism conversation, talking about the Crescent City series and the way that it looks right now, this surprisingly doesn't bother me that much, or at least maybe not as much as I thought it would, because we have the first two. These are the Barnes special editions. They're very pretty, and then the third one is just the hardcover the hardcover copy. And do I wish I would have just gotten the paperback, because by the time I read it, they were out and it would have looked really nice together? Yes, but sometimes that doesn't work out. The one series as of right now that I'm really upset about them not all being paperback is the Legendborn series. Let me go get you the third one. I haven't read Oathbound yet. It's on my TBR for April. I'm very excited to get to it, but look at these two right here. They're paperback, right? And there's like a sword going across, matches up super nicely. If there's anything matching with a series and you don't continue that with a hardback or a paperback combo, it irks me just a little bit, because what is this? There's no sword. And what irks me even more is that this just recently came out in paperback and I haven't even read it yet. So that's really fun and fresh for me. I feel like when I put this up next to this, I'm just gonna be like eye twitching a little bit, but we're getting through it, okay? There are like 1 billion other problems to have in the world, so this may seem silly, but I feel like since you guys also love books as much as I do, you like get it. The last two books that I have to put away are gonna go on this bottom shelf right here, where I have just some random fantasy books, mainly ones that aren't really favorites of mine. The first one is One from an Enemy by Olive Blake. This one was just not a favorite, so it's gonna go down there. It is really, really pretty though. And the second book is On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. This is actually a sci-fi graphic novel, and I know there's sci-fi and mystery on here mixed with the fantasy, but I just call this my fantasy shelf. And once I put both these books on my bottom shelf, we are done with the reorganization. Here are the updated shelves. I'm looking at the shelves in front of me right now, and I'm really happy with how they're looking. I feel like over the past few months, I've read so many new favorite books, and putting them on my shelves and them officially having their place just feels really, really good. And actually recently, especially after my unhaul, I was actually thinking about doing a complete reorganization of my bookshelves. I normally do that about once a year just because I want to take all the books down. I want things to feel fresh and new. I want to wipe down, dust the shelves, make sure there's no mold or anything like that. But taking a look at both shelves just now, I really like the way that they look. So we're not going to be doing that for quite a while, it seems. As you guys saw, I ended up buying a physical copy of Project Hail Mary, and don't get me wrong, the audiobook is fantastic. I'm still really enjoying the audiobook. The narrator's really good at doing different voices for different characters, and their accents are super well done as well. And I don't know if this is just a me thing, but I feel like because of the content in this book, like it is like in your face about space. And obviously it's a sci-fi, so duh, but we're getting a lot of scientific terminology that I feel like is kind of hard to just blindly listen to, at least for me, and feel like I'm getting everything out of this book that I'm wanting to get out of it, just because I'm learning a lot of new things, a lot of new words. And sometimes it's harder for me to like imagine these things happening too in my mind, just because they're a little bit more out there and not really things that I experience on a daily basis. Like, I've never been up there. The closest I've ever been is a Disney World ride that made me nauseous. So that was fun. Whenever there's a lot of terminology in books or topics that I'm not very familiar with, I tend to take breaks so I can look up what certain things mean, or I can like reread a part of it. And I find that it's harder to do that with an audiobook because the audiobook doesn't directly go back to where I want it to exactly. And audiobooks are just a little bit harder to go back and forth with. So that's the main reason why I bought this book, and it's because I want to immersive read. So I want to listen to the audiobook and then read with my eyes at the same time. I'll probably just do a little bit of audiobook and a little bit of why'd I say it like that? A little bit of physical reading here and there as well. But because the audiobook is fantastic, I plan on doing immersive reading for the majority of the rest of the book. I am currently on page 187. This is following our main character, Ryland Grace, and one day he wakes up and he's in space and he's like, what the hell is going on? He feels like he's completely lost it. He doesn't even remember his own name. And this book follows a non-linear storyline format. So you're going back and forth from the past to the present to try and piece together some of Ryland's memories. And I don't know why I haven't been like intentionally doing this, but recently I've been reading a lot of books that are told non-linearly. And I feel like with the fantasy and sci-fi genre specifically, I really enjoy the format because it helps when you're getting to experience a lot of like the info dumping with the main character, and it's just in little bursts instead of it just being like pages and pages full of content, which can be very overwhelming, especially whenever you have no idea what's going on, because last time I checked, I'm not a scientist or an astronaut. And as you keep reading, he starts to have all of these memories come back to him, and you experience those memories with him, and he starts to realize that he's on this very important mission that, if all goes well, will hopefully protect the Earth from utter turmoil. There's actually so much humor in this book. I wasn't going into this expecting it to be funny at all, let alone have me like giggling a little bit here and there. But I really like that I learned something and then I laugh, and then we just kind of keep repeating that sequence. It just makes the things that could potentially be very confusing a lot more digestible and makes it a little bit more of a balanced book, in my opinion, especially for the average person that, again, is not an astronaut. And our main character, Ryland Grace, is also just really funny. He's very likable. As for first impressions, I don't really have much to say. It's just kind of been set up so far. I mean, I'm definitely not bored. I'm liking it. And I'll be keeping you guys updated on my thoughts throughout the vlog as I continue to read more. I am planning on doing a little bit of reading tonight. I'm trying to finish this book tomorrow because we're gonna go see the movie tomorrow. Anyways, those are all the thoughts that I have for now. I should probably just go ahead and get back to reading. I'm currently on page 405 of Project Hail Mary. I have less than 100 pages left to go, and let's just say my instincts on immersively reading this were correct. If you haven't read this yet, I would highly recommend immersively reading it from just listening to the audiobook and just reading it physically. In my opinion, this is the best way to consume the book, just because, again, there's so many scientific things going on, and I feel like because of me getting to hear what I'm reading while I'm reading it, it's just making me have more understanding of what's happening. Things have picked up a ton more though since my last update. I obviously talked about the non-linear timeline, and in one part of the timeline we were just mainly getting a lot of Grace's thoughts and feelings. We weren't getting a lot of dialogue, and in the other timeline we were getting a lot more dialogue. But there's a lot more characters that have come into the mix since then, and so we're getting more dialogue in general, so I feel like that's helping a lot more with the pacing of the story. And also, I just love the new character that has gotten introduced. If you know, you know, but he's making the story even more human. Like, you're getting to see Grace's experiences and emotions and the way that he deals with things more, because they're having conversations about those things and they relate to each other on a certain level. And he's just making this more of a heartwarming, well-rounded story. We've gotten to the point where it's not just space and we're learning about our main character. It's space, feelings, duty, mission. There's so many more levels to it now, and I feel like once this character was added, it really added that little cherry on top that this book needed to become such a big bestseller. And I genuinely think that this character is the reason why so many people do enjoy this book, and he's making me enjoy it a lot more than I was originally. Even though I was liking it a bit at first, but there were times where I was like, all right, like, we need to keep this ball moving. And once he was added in, I haven't really felt like that. Getting to hear this new character audibly, I feel like is also an important experience. That's why I do really recommend the audiobook if you haven't read this yet. Even if you can only listen to like a clip or two if you're not gonna get the audiobook, if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend doing at least that because I feel like it will just add to your experience, which obviously can't hurt. This book also has a lot of page breaks, and I really enjoy that personally. It makes me feel very accomplished as a reader, and it keeps me motivated to keep on reading if I see a page break and then I realize the next section is only like a page and a half and be like, I can finish that in no time flat. Like, let's just keep on going. The last flashback scene I read, though, really made my heart sink, and it made me feel so much for Grace because he's just going through something so human. There's a lot of talk about death in this book, and obviously the idea and concept of death, everyone can relate to thinking about it. And because of that, I just have this level understanding for him, and it makes me care for him even more. And I don't know, at this point, I don't really have any other thoughts. I just want to dive right back on into the book and finish it. I'm really excited to go see the movie tonight because I have heard absolutely amazing things about the movie, and I also feel like seeing a sci-fi movie specifically where there's so many terms and like things that you have to visualize in your brain that you probably won't perfectly visualize because you've never seen them before or even heard of the concepts before reading them for the first time in a book. It's really gonna help me visualize and have even more understanding of all of the different scientific things that are happening. So I'm really excited. Let's go ahead and finish this on up together. 15 pages left. I just finished Project Hail Mary, and it was actually perfect timing because Luke and I kind of have to leave like now to go see the movie. I really like the ending. I wasn't expecting it to end that way, so I feel like it made me like it more. It was a very hopeful and uplifting ending, and I'm wondering what they're gonna change from the movie to the book, and we'll be talking about that a lot more in depth after I go see the movie, obviously, and my final thoughts on the book as well. But honestly, at this point, I just need to go so Luke and I don't miss the movie. Okay, now that I've both read the book and seen the movie, it is time to talk all things Project Hail Mary. Let's talk about the book first. The overall premise of the story I did enjoy. It was all about love and friendship and hope. But do I think personally for me this is like a favorite book of all time, a 5-star? Unfortunately, no. And let me tell you why. Where this book unfortunately lost me was the science. And I know it was a sci-fi, okay? I knew going in that there was gonna be some science elements. I've read quite a few sci-fis though, and nothing has been this like in-your-face science as this book right here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just don't think that personally that is the type of sci-fi for me. I've just never really been that into science, and I found myself feeling like kind of dumb throughout the book a little bit. Like, I know I've already said this in the video that I'm not an astronaut and I'm not a scientist, but like, it definitely kept reminding me that I'm not those things. Did immersively reading the story help me understand the scientific things better and make things more digestible? Yes. But did it make it digestible to a point where I felt satisfied in my understanding of everything? Not really, unfortunately. It was honestly quite jarring sometimes having that much science just like thrown into your face. Not that I'm saying it as like a negative thing. It was just kind of like overwhelming for me personally. I also feel like I like understanding everything that's happening in a book. And when I don't, I feel like my brain can't really let it go, and I find myself going back and reading passages, and whenever I still don't understand it, I just feel this sense of dissatisfaction and almost frustration to a certain standpoint. But going back into the heart of the story, the things that I really did enjoy about it, I did like our main character, Grace. I feel like the mission of Project Hail Mary was just as much for the scientific discoveries as it was for the discoveries that Grace had himself. You get to see him be so much more self-assured and confident confident, and throughout that journey, you find him being so human, you just can't help but relate to him. I really enjoyed the use of comedy throughout this book as well. I really wasn't expecting that, but I think the comedy really carried for me throughout this story and kept me a lot more engaged during the parts that I felt quite confused. And you also gotta love Rocky. Like, how can you not? He is such a sweet little guy and I just love him. As for my rating of the book, I think that at this time I would probably give it a 4 stars. I still did really like it. I just think that the science, you know, just really took me out of the story quite a bit. But that is genuinely one of the only things I didn't really like about the book. But now, let's go ahead and get on into the movie. And as we talk about the movie, I'll be doing some comparisons. Just like the book, I did enjoy the movie quite a bit. I feel like where the movie and the book differ quite a bit is that the book is like, science, haha, funny, cute, aw. And then the movie is like, haha, funny, cute, science. And believe me, I know I was just complaining about the amount of science in this book, but I almost feel like the movie left out quite a bit of context. And I understand a movie can only be so long, but I feel like there were a lot of like key moments that were missing. And for me, as somebody who deems himself as more of a visual learner, I feel like in movie form, the scientific elements would have been a lot more digestible. And because of that, I wish they would have had more of those elements. And another thing I wish they would have had more of that I actually really enjoyed about in the book was how politics came into play and the whole entire world basically came together to solve this issue. If you've read the book, this will mean something to you. I'm not gonna go crazy in depth, so this isn't a spoiler, but they left out things like Antarctica, climate change, the Sahara Desert, coma resistance gene that I felt like was a huge part of the book. And I am going to talk about more of my thoughts here in a second, but this part leads me to my main conclusion about the book and the movie. They complement each other so well. They go hand in hand. I feel like if you've read the book and have all of that context and then you go see the movie, you're just going to have so much more understanding of what is actually happening, even if you're like me and didn't fully understand the scientific elements. Just because there were so many little things, especially plot-wise, that I felt were important, like I've already said, that they left out. And going to the movie with my husband Luke, who hadn't read the book, before I even started talking with him about comparisons, he told me that he wished there would have been just a little bit more explanation and context in the movie because he felt like it was just like missing something. Just in general with the movie, it was so beautifully shot. That was like the #1 thing I noticed about it. There was this moment where they go through the Petrova line. I literally got chills. I really did like Ryan Gosling as Grace. I feel like he was a good choice, and you know, not too bad to look at, am I right? I feel like the way the script was written and the way that Ryan Gosling played Grace, there was definitely a lot more comedic elements than there were in the book. And I did want to talk a bit about Strat. I was actually talking with a friend recently who had read the book and watched the movie, and we both came to the conclusion that book Strat and movie Strat are so different, but book Strat is very consistent in her character, and as is movie Strat, like completely separating them. Strat in the book is very cold. She is willing to do absolutely anything, throw anyone under the bus to get this mission figured out to save people, to save Earth. And movie Strat is similar, but it felt like they were trying to find ways to humanize her almost, which I honestly didn't feel like was necessary because I totally understand why Strat was the way Strat was in the book and why she did the things that she felt like she needed to do. So because of that, I felt like she didn't need to feel likable. I also feel like the karaoke scene, that was very random to me. Not that I didn't enjoy the scene, but it just felt like you left out so many things. You put that in, I was just kind of like, why, I guess? And going to my main man, my favorite character, Rocky. I unfortunately feel like in the movie they dumped him down, which I just didn't love. He is so smart, and I feel like we're missing out on a lot of that context. The movie kind of made it seem like Grace was the head of the operation and Rocky was just kind of like there for comedic relief. Like he was still doing stuff, yeah, but Rocky just wasn't perceived the same way as he was in the book. They were partners. They were doing so much work together, trying to figure things out together. And Rocky did just as much work, in my opinion, as Grace did. Like they were partners through and through. And it honestly kind of makes me sad that the people who didn't read the book don't fully appreciate Rocky and who he is and how smart he was. He literally understood the human language instantly. Like he just instantly understood all the words that Grace was saying. In the moment he said them, he memorized them and he started to understand the language. He is a genius, and I feel like he was so downplayed, so it makes me so sad because I just love Rocky so much. I am so sorry. I could go on and on all day about the differences and all of the other things about the book and the movie. Overall, I did really enjoy both. When I take the book out of the equation and just judge the movie, I think I would probably rate it a 4.5. I really enjoyed this story being told in movie form visually, and I genuinely feel like I'm one of the last people to jump on the train and read the book, but if you haven't yet and you haven't seen the movie, I would highly recommend reading the book or listening to it before you go see the movie. They are both great. I liked both a lot, and I hope you have enjoyed them or will enjoy them too. I am so excited to update my reading journal today. I haven't updated it yet for this year, but I have everything set up so far. So in today's video, we are going to be updating all of my lovely tracker spreads, and then I also want to create my January and February wrap-up pages. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do for those yet, or like what the vision is. So we're going to be kind of figuring it out as we go. I also don't know if I want to include my seasonal TBRs this year or not either. I feel like when I filled this out, I just realized how much I really do enjoy doing my reading journal. So we'll really just have to wait and see on what I end up doing. I am really excited though, because in today's video, it will be my first time using my new HP sprocket. I am stoked for this. Before we start filling out my tracker spreads, I am going ahead and getting out all of the markers that have tape on them. I ended up doing this year. I saw Rachel Catherine talk about this in her reading journal video, but it's really hard to remember what colors you use for certain things. So this is definitely going to be helpful this year in matching my colors. Okay, now that I have all of those colors out and ready for me to use, let's go ahead and start on my reading goal, since it's the first tracking page in my reading journal this year. Looking at my reading goal in Goodreads right now, it looks like I have read 24 out of the 100 books that I want to read this year. I'm 4 books behind. Not feeling bad about being 4 books behind right now. I feel like I'm going to catch up, so that's not really too much pressure, but I'm going to count 24 squares on here, and then I'm going to fill them out from the 24th all the way to the first one. So I'm doing it backwards, and that is because in the past, I have gone over the number on accident if I start at the first one. So we're just going to do this to play it safe. And I'm thinking I'm going to fill out this left side before I fill out this right side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So we are going to be filling out 2 right here. And I'm already outside the lines. I should probably get some white out, but it is what it is. I find this part of doing my reading journal quite therapeutic, honestly, just like coloring these in pretty mindlessly. It's not like it takes a lot of brain power or effort to color in a single square. So this is one of the many reasons why I love doing my reading journal. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely a lot of parts of doing a reading journal that do take a lot of brain power and creativity. For example, setting up these spreads in the first place, but a lot of the spreads, once you have them filled out, it's almost like a very simple coloring book. Okay, on to the last little box. It already feels so good to have something filled out. Okay, now onto my monthly and genre trackers. I'm thinking for these, since everything is already purple, I'm just gonna use my dark purple and my light purple marker and go on and off per month. So January, I'll probably start with my dark one, and then February, I'll do my light one and go from there. And then I'm also gonna carry that theme on to my genre tracker as well. We're gonna start with January. I read 7 books in the month of January. And then I also read 7 books in the month of February. And we're only gonna update to March right now, but in the month of March, I ended up reading 8 books. I'm gonna do a little square to represent each book. So in the month of January, I read 1 memoir, 2 literary fiction, 1 historical fiction, 1 mystery, 1 fantasy, and 1 romance. February, I read 1 graphic novel, 3 romances, as well as 3 literary fiction. For March, I read 2 romances, 2 fantasy books, 1 thriller, which I'm just gonna put in the mystery section because I'm just gonna count those together because I don't really read a lot of both of those genres. 1 literary fiction book, 1 historical fiction, and then finally 1 novella. Now moving on to my physical TBR page. I think this is one of the most satisfying ones to fill out because I get to physically cross out all of the books that I have read. I'm also going to be crossing out some of the ones that I unhauled at the beginning of the year as well, but these are all the books that I owned at the beginning of this year. So let's go through and start crossing them out. I read The Nightingale. I finished both books in the Crescent City series. I think I'm also going to put like a little star here just for fun, because I think it's cute. I also finished what was left of the Windy City series, as well as the Favorites by Lane Fargo. Atmosphere can get checked off. One for My Enemy can also, and then I'm gonna cross off Belladonna Like This because I unhold it. I read the Inheritance Games, A Witch's Guide. I unhold Curse of the Wolf King. Finished the Beartown trilogy. Unhold this book and this one. I just finished Turtle Down. I unhold these few as well. And then I haven't read the S. I am gonna create a little page break of sorts. I think I'm just gonna do like a little squiggly line because I want to know what books I owned at the beginning of the year versus what ones actually came into my possession this year in 2026, because I really want to focus on the books that I owned prior to this year. That's like a big goal for me, is that out of all the books on my TBR, I really want to focus on reading those down. And then the books that I bought so far this year: Heart the Lover, which I did read. I Cheerfully Refuse, A Good Animal, Buckeye, How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates, Writers and Lovers, and then I believe lastly we have Deep Cuts. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. I don't believe I did. Wait, I think Buckeye was already on here. Okay, just kidding. Buckeye was already on here. So I'm just gonna cross that one out. I remember I got that one at the beginning of last year. Or not at the beginning of last year. At the very end of last year. Also just realized I forgot to cross off the good part. And then I think that is everything for my physical TBR page. Looking at it right now, I'm not even on the second page, which is my goal. I don't want to buy more books than what I can fill out on these 2 pages. So I'm feeling good right now. And that means it is time to move on to my 2026 TBR. We have a lot to fill out on this list because I've read over half of the books on this list so far. We're gonna fill out The Nightingale, Caught Up, The Favorites, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, House of Flame and Shadow, Turtles All the Way Down, Atmosphere, and The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I feel like when I do this page, I do try my best with what markers I have to match it to what the book actually looks like, but sometimes we gotta compromise. It is a new day, as you can tell. I kind of thought I could finish what I was doing with my reading journal the other day, and we had plans that evening. I could not. I always think that it's going to take less time than it ends up taking. And honestly, who knows if I end up finishing it today, but I will be finishing it in this video. You might just see me in a few different outfits throughout these clips. Also, since it's in frame, everybody say hey to my lovely overhead camera that we're going to be switching to right now because we are going to be getting back into the thick of it. My reading bucket list is the spread that I created earlier this year that I was most excited to fill out because it is currently black and white. I mean, besides the star stickers, but if we're not paying attention to that, it is all black and white. And so when I add color to this page today, it's gonna make it come to life, and it's just gonna look so cool at the end of the year whenever it is fully filled out. I think the first square that we're gonna fill out on this page is finish a series, and I'm gonna fill that out for the Windy City series. I ended up choosing a blue because that just feels very Chicago to me for some reason. For TV or movie adaptation, I'm gonna fill this out for Project Hail Mary because I literally just finished it, so it just kind of feels right. And I also can't even explain to you guys how excited I am that I used a black pen that doesn't smudge this year. This Pigma Micron PN pen, I don't know. It works wonders though, and it is not smearing, as you can see. So that has been really nice. I'm gonna do 5-star next, and I'm thinking either Heart the Lover or The Nightingale. I feel like both of them could be used for quite a few on the spread currently. I think I'm gonna pick Heart the Lover though for this one this time. It's by a new to me author too, so I feel like it just stuck out even more to me that it was a 5-star. I really like the way this yellow looks too without it smearing. Yay. While I already have the orange color out from the TV or movie adaptation one, I just filled this one out, and I think I am going to use The Good Part by Sophie Cousins for this one. For this square, I'm thinking I'm going to fill it out with A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. That was also a romance I read in February that I really did enjoy, and I think I'm going to use purple for it since the cover of the book is purple. Gotta color carefully around my little Alex Russo copycat one. I want to fill out buddy read next. I buddy read Us Against You with Lottie, and that was really fun. So I want to commemorate that experience by jotting this one down. I'm gonna use this light purple because the cover of Us Against You is like a purpley blue. I surprisingly already read a couple of books over 700 pages this year. I think I'm gonna use House of Sky and Breath, which is the second Crescent City book for this square. I've read over half of my 2026 TBR so far this year, so let's go ahead and fill that one out while we're here. And that can be our last one. We can go ahead and go back to my TBR page and see which one we want to use. I think I want to go ahead and use The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I really enjoyed that. It was such a fun time. So I'm going to use the yellow, or maybe like a yellowy orange, because the cover, I'm looking at it right now, it's kind of like this golden color, and orange is as close as we can get to that. That one looks good. And then maybe on the outside we could do a blue for like ice skating. I don't know. I already filled out 7 squares today on this page, and before I get too excited and fill out too many more, we need to go ahead and move on to my next page, which is my series tracker. I have quite a bit to update on this page because I've actually finished quite a few series since I last made it. The first one I finished was Beartown, and then I also finished the Crescent City series, and then I finished the Windy City series as well. So those are all filled out now. They look great. And then I think the only other thing I have to fill out is that I read the 6th book in the M.M. Lion series as well. So I had a bit to fill out, but it never really takes that long with a page like this. I also don't know if I want to like cross out the series after I finish them. I don't know how I'm feeling about that. Or maybe I like highlight the title or something in the color that their squares are. Let me see how that looks. Well, I guess we're not going to see. I mean, we are going to see, but like this is what we're doing now because I'm filling it out on the page. So we'll see how this goes. Pressure's on. Okay, I like that. I actually like that quite a bit. Let's do that for Windy City. And then Crescent City. Okay, I enjoy that, actually. Now that we've officially filled out all of the front pages, it is time to get into my monthly spreads. Yesterday, while I was trying to work through what to do with my January spread, I decided to turn off my front-facing camera and my microphone and just get to work trying to lay everything out. Because since this is the first month of the year, this was my first time doing a spread like this, and I'm glad that I turned it off so I could figure everything out. Because if I would have been talking through it, it would have taken me a lot longer to do. Like always, I printed out one of my favorite books, and I had a lot of extra room around on this little like doily cutout, so I decided to just start writing around it. And I think me writing some extra things here and there and adding stars as well just added a little bit of extra oomph to the page that I really liked. Also included my genre breakdown pie chart. I really enjoyed doing this last year, and I think it just looks really cool. And I also have all the books that I read and their ratings down here at the bottom. The new things that I added is an album of the month. I'm probably going to do an album or a song, and Midnights by Taylor Swift. That album is just so January to me. I feel like I listen to it so much in January, specifically every single year, so I figured that fit very well. And it also fit the color scheme, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then I also have Dear Gentle Reader, which is a nod to Bridgerton because I was watching a lot of Bridgerton because the first half of the 4th season came out in January. So obviously it'll depend on the month, but I want to start doing nods to movies or TV shows that I really liked that I watched during that month. And then I also printed out some other cute things too, like this bow, these little stars. I added some more of my silver star stickers around anywhere that looked a little bit more barren. We have Miffy reading a book. I thought this was cute. A little snowflake printed out patch. I also printed out this little button right here. And then also, since January is like the beginning of the year, I feel like it's very motivational, but also a little bit dreary because of the weather, so I just had a little "you are doing great" motivational saying in there just to remind myself that no matter what I'm doing, I'm doing great. The things that are different about this year's monthly spreads are, one, it's a whole entire spread per month and not just a page. Like, in years prior, if we flip back, each month was just a page. So I ended up doing 2 months at a time for the most part when I did my reading journal, so they could kind of like match the vibe. But I feel like I could just do 1 month at a time now, which is really nice. I also decided to not include how many pages I read in my average rating because I couldn't figure out exactly how I wanted to do it. I'll show you some of the different ideas I had. I just wasn't obsessed with how they looked. These were 2 of the things that I ended up making and I just wrote on them. I colored with one of my Ohuhu markers on cardstock and I tried like different ways of cutting them out. I even had a cloud one. I might have thrown that one away, but I thought that it matched nice color-wise. I don't know. I just wasn't obsessed with the way that I wrote on them. So even though I did want to include the reading stats on the spread, I just don't really know what exactly I want to do for them. I can always come back to this spread and update it more later with these stats if I come up with a different idea. If you guys have any ideas, please do let me know in the comments. I am all ears. If you guys have any ideas for my reading journal, I would love to know. But I'm also thinking at the end of this year, I can make a new tracker spread with all of those details for every month. So I don't know. It's honestly not the end of the world that they are not included. But with all that being said, it is now time to start with February, and I'm feeling a little bit more confident now to talk you guys through what exactly I'm doing while I'm doing it because I now know better what I'm doing. You could probably see this off to the corner. These are all of the things that I'm going to be using for February. Starting out with this month's background, we just have a lovely red and pink striped background. Let's go ahead and tape this guy down because obviously we're going to start there. And then getting into the other elements, like the January page, I did print out a page of crumpled up paper this time. It's going to be red to match February. And then I also have this book that I like to tear up, and I feel like it just fills the space very nicely. So we'll start playing with that here in a minute. I also have this reading list. I got a ton for Christmas this year, and what I did on the other page is I just cut out how many books I had read that month. From here, rounded the edges and called it a day. I thought it looked good. So I think I'm going to continue doing that. I don't know if I love this pink color. There's also a white one. I don't know. I feel like out of all the colors, honestly, the white one looks better. So I think I am going to use the white one instead. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut this up now. In the month of February, I read 7 books. So I'm just going to be cutting out 7 little rows, I guess. Yes, that's the right way you would say that. All right, now that I've got all 7, I'm going to go in with this rounder. I think I'm going to do the 4mm because it's going to be a little bit smaller. And I always do this looking at this backwards so I can actually see what it's doing because sometimes it's not all the way lined up. So if you've had trouble with this tool, I recommend doing it like this. I feel like I never really have any issues whenever I do it backwards like this. The first thing I'm going to do is figure out what I'm going to do for my title. And I know I'm probably going to just use these stickers again. I really, really like the way that these look. So I'm going to go through these and find all the ones that I need. I might want to put February down this side just to kind of change it up. Because on the other one, I did it in the middle. And I really like the way I did it, like kind of making it cut off in the middle and it just have everything else surrounding it. But I want to try something different on this page because I don't want every single page to look exactly the same. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to rip this long ways because it fits really well long ways. Maybe like an inch or so thick. And I'm going to go ahead and rip all the other edges too. February. Why don't we say it February? February. This feels wrong. I feel like it should not be spelled this way, but here we are. Okay, I'm thinking something like that just for the title so everybody knows what month we're in. Okay, and then we have all of my other little bits and bobs and pieces. For this month, I had 2 standout reads, so there's not going to be as much room for me to write around them. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe I could do them like more in the corners so I could write about them. I don't know. But this will be sideways on this page. This will also be sideways. Then we have this guy right here. This little button is gonna go up here for this. That's cute. I have this little love you more card that I thought was cute. I found all of these little things that I'm using, by the way, on Pinterest. I have The Art of Loving on vinyl by Olivia Dean. I love this album so much, and since it was the month of love, it just felt so fitting to put it here. A little jelly cat cake because it was my birthday in February, and then some cute little bows that'll go somewhere. This little patch that says cutie, and then this ticket that says good vibes, not good vibes, good things are coming, that I thought was cute as well. So let's take a look and see what we want to do. This part of the process is me just playing, moving things around, just trying to figure out the best way I think things would all look together. And I would also say this is the longest part of the reading journal process for me because I'm incredibly indecisive. You know what? Let me color in this guy right here, because once I color this in, I'll know that if I'm gonna need like book pages or the dark pages behind it, because sometimes it can blend in with the background a little bit. I think I like that pink. Let me take a picture of this before I mess it up. But how I ended up doing this circle is I have a bunch of plain white cardstock, and I also have this circular sticker that I've had for quite some time. This is what I used to outline in my reading journal in years past whenever I would do my genre breakdown pie chart as well. So now I am just cutting out that tracing and plopping it on instead, because it just works better for the more scrapbooky format. I'm just gonna go ahead and color these guys in really quick. So since I like this, I'm gonna take a picture of it, and if it ends up changing as I'm taping things down, it is what it is, but it's nice to have a reference to go back to if I'm feeling a little bit lost. And I'm gonna take all of these guys off, and I'm gonna start over here with the title, because again, that is the most important part. Okay, this is what I've got cooking after I taped a bunch of stuff down. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I know I already said that things tend to look a bit different as you're taping down sometimes, and that is indeed what happened. But now I want to go through and add a few finishing touches. We're going to start out with my lovely black pen, of course. I ended up choosing this paper right here to go under the album so I could write album of the month under it, because I just like that as a detail. So I'm gonna do that while following the curve of the album. And since I ran out of room, I'm just gonna write it under it. You know, sometimes things don't work out exactly as we planned, and that is okay. I think I'm also gonna add a little heart to it, because why not? It's the month of love. And then I'm also going to do the same thing up here for genre breakdown. I don't know how good it's going to come up on this dark paper right here, but I guess we will have to see. All right, the answer is it doesn't really come up that much. And you know what? That's fine. It honestly just, it is what it is at this point. I think I'm going to write my favorite books down here. Hopefully it's not like too slippy and slidey. So I think I'll just do it like this. And then I'm also going to write little details about each book. And I think that's all I'm going to do with my black pen since everything else is so dark. I probably would go along and do some stars or some hearts. I don't even know if they're going to show up though. Well, maybe they show up. Maybe I will do that. We'll do some hearts because it's February. Why not? I'm going to do gold stars for the month of February. I love the way these stars look. I feel like they are always just a great finishing touch to any page. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and call the stars good from there, because otherwise I would go absolutely insane. And I think this is February done. What I think I've learned from both February and my January spreads is probably to print out 1 or 2 more cutie little decorative doodads, because I think it would fill up the space just a little bit more. But even without a lot of the extra space filled, I feel like it looks really good because of the fact that I have a background. And overall, I am really loving how the monthly pages are turning out so far this year. We're gonna be starting a new segment in my Ultimate Book videos called TBR Talk, where you guessed it, we talk all things TBR. And it's gonna be different in every single video depending on what I have to talk about. Today, I figured I would go ahead and share with you guys my spring TBR. I know that we're like halfway through, maybe even a little over halfway through spring by the time you're seeing this video, but I'm really excited about a lot of these books, so I figured I would just go ahead and share them with you guys anyways. We're gonna start out with some standalones, and the first one is I Cheerfully Refuse by Leaf Anger. This is on my April TBR, and I'm really hopeful that I'm gonna get to it this month. And Luke actually picked this one out for me whenever we did a book swap, and he chose it because Kristen Hanna has a blurb on the front. She says, "My favorite novel of the year, heartbreaking, frighteningly prophetic, and defiantly hopeful." I really do like the art style of the cover, and I've never heard anything about this author, never read anything by him, so I feel like that makes me even more intrigued to read one of his books, especially because I own it. And the end of the little blurb on the back says that it is a harrowing nautical tale buoyed by beauty and unexpected kindness, a symphony against despair, and a rallying cry for the future. And the basic plot is our main character, Rainy, is going on a quest, a nautical quest on Lake Superior to search for his wife. That's all I really want to know going into it. I'm really excited to see what I'm going to think of this one. I'm going to put all of them up here after we talk about them as well, at least the ones that I have physically. And the next is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. This is a prequel to Heart the Lover that I read earlier this year, and I absolutely loved. That is one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. I love the characters and the story in general of that book, but specifically Lily King's writing style. It's very succinct and straightforward to the point, but she also picks perfect moments to leave things to your imagination and kind of see what you're going to perceive and think about certain things about the story, and I really did enjoy that. So I'm wanting to read more from her, and so when I figured out there was a prequel, I figured I would go ahead and start here. I would read you guys the description on the back, but I feel like if you haven't read Heart the Lover, it might give certain things away. But our main character is grieving, she's going through relationship changes, she's trying to become an author, and it's really about our main character going through a between phase of her life. I'm really excited to see what I'm gonna think, and I know that this is the prequel and I'm reading it second. I feel like it truly just depends on the book or the series whether I do that or not. I didn't really have that much information on this book before I read Heart the Lover because it was a book club book with my friends, so I just read it anyways. But I'll let you guys know what I think and if I think there's a specific way that you should read it for the best reading experience. Next is a book that I'm hoping to get to at the end of spring leading into summer, and that's because it is more of a summer romance, and that is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This has been on my TBR for quite some time now. I believe it was on my yearly TBR last year, and the reason why I've been putting this one off so much is because I read her first book, You With a View, at the beginning of last year, and I thought the story was interesting, so I was intrigued by that, but her writing just didn't really click in my brain. But it was also her debut novel, and I feel like sometimes that happens, and I'm willing to give authors other chances, especially because I have heard so many amazing things about the X-Files specifically. The blurb says, estranged exes must stick close together to save their best friend's wedding after a string of disasters in this swoony and steamy second chance romance. I do love a second chance romance. I've heard so many people say that if you loved Happy Place, you're really gonna love this one, and I love Happy Place, so I'm really hopeful I'm going to enjoy this. I feel like this would be a perfect book to read by the pool. And then the last standalone that doesn't really fit into the other categories I'm going to be talking about today is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. I have heard so many glowing reviews about this book right here. So many people have also said that if you enjoyed this, you would enjoy M&M Lion, which we'll talk about later. But you guys know that I love the M&M Lion series, and this is about a woman named Sybil? Sybil. I almost called her Sylvia. Couldn't tell you why. She writes letters to make sense of the things that are going on in her life. I find that interesting. I love a book with letters. This one is also pretty short and sweet, I believe. I think it's under 300 pages. Yeah, it's 281 pages. So short and sweet, to the point. We love a book that does that, and I'm pumped to read this. Now we're gonna get into some series that I want to continue or finish. Let's go ahead and talk about M&M Lion, since I already mentioned it. It's like the elephant in the room. I love this series so much. I have 2 more books left in the series, and this series just screams spring to me. It is set during the Victorian era. It's very Bridgerton-esque. It's in London, and we're following our main character, Emma, while we get to read her journals about her everyday life, the things she gets up to. It kind of gives me a similar writing style to Sangoman Donna. So if you've read A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches and A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, I think you could really enjoy this series. They're both very cozy and witty and charming and heartwarming, while also just having like silly, outlandish things happening, and it doesn't really take itself too seriously. This series has brought me so much joy over the past like 6 months or so that I started reading it, and I cannot wait to finish it, but I'm also terrified, and that's why I've been putting it off. These are pretty short books, and there are 8 of them out currently, so I could have finished them really quickly, but I knew after I read, I think like the 3rd one, this was going to be a favorite series to me, so I have been stretching it out for all that it this work. And I've been having an absolute blast reading this series, so I'm excited to finish it, but it's also a bittersweet feeling. Next is another book on my April TBR, and that is Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. This is the third book in the Legendborn cycle, and also the last book that is currently out in this series. So once I finish this one, I will be up to date with another series, which I'm very excited about. Always a great feeling. This is following our main character, Bree, and in the first book, she's going through a crossroads in her life. She's going through a lot of grief. She just lost her mom, and she's also newly enrolled in an early college program at UNC, the University of North Carolina. She ends up being in the wrong place at the wrong time, seeing some stuff that she should not be seeing, which gets her involved in a secret society, and there's just like a lot of layers to the secret society and lore that you end up learning throughout these books, and it's crazy because Bree herself doesn't know too much about it, but once you start figuring everything out with her, it just all clicks, and it's just told so beautifully. I feel like I really haven't felt this way about a fantasy series for a while, so I'm really excited to get back into this and be all caught up. This next series is one that's going to be very high on my radar after I finish what is currently out of the Legendborn cycle, and that is the Ember in the Ashes series. I'm holding up the second book now, A Torch Against the Night. These are by Sabaa Tahir because I read the first one in December and I really did like it. I thought it was a strong start to a fantasy series, and in all honesty, I don't really find myself gravitating towards a lot of fantasy during the later spring and the summer months, but I feel like I do read like maybe a series here and there, and this is the one I would really like to focus on for this spring and summer. So hopefully sometime this spring we can read the second one, and then during the summer I can go ahead and continue and finish the last two right here on my TBR card. And then the last series I would love to finish sometime this spring is the Lightfall graphic novel series. I've read the first two so far, and I currently have the third one on hold as well, which will hopefully be available in a few days, but I've really been enjoying it. It's just a young adult adventurous journey-like graphic novel. They're trying to figure out what's going on in their fantastical land. The anxiety rep in here is very well done, and I also really like the art style, and I don't know, I just really love a graphic novel. Even though they are meant for young adults or even children, I just find them so charming and endearing, and I feel like the lessons that they're trying to teach you are really important as well. They're also just really quick reads, so whenever I'm in the perfect mood for something light and enjoyable, I am going to gravitate towards these. Now let's talk about my 2026 TBR. I have currently read 8 out of the 15 that I was hoping to read this year, which is over half, and it's not even halfway through the year, so I feel really good about that. So that means I have 7 books left to hopefully read sometime this year, and out of those 7 there are 2 that I would also love to read this spring. The first one is When the Crows Away by Oralee Wallace. This is the second book in the In the Company of Witches series, I guess. I read In the Company of Witches last fall and I enjoyed it. It's a cozy mystery series. It doesn't really take itself too seriously. It's a little silly and funny, but there's also witches and I love witches, so I was like, okay, I'll read the second one. And I went to go get the second one last fall and I realized it was set in the spring, so I decided to wait until the spring this year to read it. So that is why I put it on here. I felt like it would be a good spring seasonal read. I did get the first one from my library, so I'll probably do the same with the second, and then if I end up enjoying the second one a lot, I might buy them physically. I'm not too sure. But the other book on my 2026 TBR that I'm hoping to get to sometime this spring is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I feel like for a fantasy, since this is literally called Sorcery of Thorns and there are roses all over the cover, that just gives me spring vibes. This is also a standalone, so there's no pressure to continue the series after the fact, and I've heard it's just very cozy. I've heard that there's a magical library. All sorcerers are evil. Elizabeth has known that as long as she has known anything. Raised as a foundling in one of Ostermere's great libraries, Elizabeth has grown up among magical grimoires that rattle beneath iron chains, capable of transforming into grotesque monsters. When an act of sabotage releases the library's most dangerous grimoire, Elizabeth is accused of treason, with no one to turn to but her sworn enemy, the sorcerer Nathaniel Thorne, and his mysterious servant. She finds herself entangled in a centuries-old conspiracy. Not only could the great libraries go up in flames, but the world along with them. That sounds super interesting, and I'm hopeful that I'm gonna enjoy it. Now, that is it for my spring TBR, but I did also want to talk to you guys about my physical TBR in general, talk numbers, all that good stuff, because I feel like it's just nice to check in. One of my big goals this year is I want to try and read all of the books that I have owned previous to this year before the year is over. So I know that's kind of ambitious. We'll see how that goes. And I feel like in the past, I have had zero idea how many books I had on my cart unless I went through and counted them every time I read a book or every time that I bought new books. And I've recently finally become a part of the Fable using community, and they have a lot of different lists that you can create. So I made my physical TBR, and it's just a really great way to keep track of what books I'm buying and reading and keeping track of numbers in general. So looking at my physical TBR list right now, I currently have 35 books on my physical TBR, which I feel like is a good amount. I think that obviously I did say that I want to read all the books that I've owned prior to this year sometime this year, but if I don't end up hitting that, I do just want to read down my TBR quite a bit, maybe try and get to like 20 or 15 books in total on my cart to choose from. I still do obviously like having options, and I'm very fortunate to have a TBR cart in general and have so many books to choose from. But when it comes to book buying, and I've been actually pretty good at this so far this year, I want to pump the brakes a little bit. If there's a book that I really want to read in that moment, or a next book in the series that I feel like I'm gonna get to really soon and I'm really excited to read it, I'll allow myself to buy it, especially if I can't get it from my library. But I think from here on out, what I'm going to try and do with reading is either get the book from my library through Libby, or physically, or on Kindle Unlimited, or listen to it through the many audiobook apps that I have first before I go out and buy books, just because, one, books are expensive, mama. They've been absolutely racking up those prices, especially for hardcovers, and I want to save my money. I feel like with my unhaul, I realized that, you know, I don't want to have books on my shelves that I didn't like. And being able to consume a book and decide whether or not I liked it enough to spend my hard-earned dollars on it is something that I'm trying to be a lot more conscious about and actively thinking of, so that I can actually hit my goal of reading down my TBR a lot more this year. Guys, I have some sad news. My Hoopla app has been out of commission since the end of 2025. I know, I'm genuinely heartbroken. And if you don't know what Hoopla is, it's basically like Libby, so you can get ebooks and audiobooks from your library. But Hoopla is a little bit different. You don't have to wait for those books to come in. You can just listen to them or read them immediately. The only downside to Hoopla's ebooks specifically is that you can't download them onto a Kindle or a Kobo. You have to like read it on the app, so that kind of stinks. But I use Hoopla a lot for audiobooks because they have a great audiobook selection. And I have really been missing Hoopla the past few months, so I am at my library and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm pretty sure that my library still has Hoopla as an option, just because my friend Kristen has Hoopla and she can use it just fine. So I don't know if I need to get my library card updated or what's going on. I can also get a library card through Chicago because my library has an option and they have Hoopla. So no matter what, I'm hoping to come out of the library today with Hoopla. And then two other things that I want to do at the library today is I want to pick up my graphic novel that I have on hold. It's the third book in the Lightfall graphic novel series. And then I also want to finish In Her Own League by Liz Ford. My Kindle says I have about an hour left in it. So my plan is to go do my 2 tasks, and then I'm going to reward myself with some reading time. And we'll also probably peruse around the library as well, because who knows what they've got. Got back from the library and I have an unfortunate update about the Hoopla situation, and that is that it is not solved. I'm very lucky. I have 2 libraries that are near-ish to me that I can go to and check out books. I have a lot of books at my disposal, whether that be electronically, audio, or physically. But my library card is at one library specifically, and I was going to the other library anyways because I was picking up a hold, so I just went there. And I thought I could figure it out there, but that did not happen, so I needed to go to the other library. But these 2 libraries are like a little bit far from each other, so it just wasn't in the cards to go today. But I will keep you guys updated if I get this Hoopla situation figured out. While I was at the library though, I did end up getting 2 books. The first one is the graphic novel that I had on hold, the 3rd book in the Lightfall graphic novel series, The Dark Times. I'm super excited to continue this. I just really prefer reading graphic novels physically. It's just so much cooler to like see all the art and stuff in person for me and being able to actively flip the pages. They are all on Kindle Unlimited if you're interested in reading them. So very excited to read this. And then while I was there, I went ahead and checked to see if they had When the Crows Away physically, and they did, and it's a cute little mass market paperback. I honestly used to think that these tiny little mass market paperbacks, I just like didn't want to read from them, couldn't read from them. I felt like my hands were going to be cramping, and will my hands be cramping a little bit? Probably, but also the spine's broken. So I'm kind of chilling on this one. I already talked about this in my TBR talk portion of the video, but this is just a fun little cozy mystery that follows witches in the spring. And I love witches, and it's springtime. So there we go. Excited about this one to add it to my TBR cart before I choose my May TBR. And then the last thing I ended up doing at the library was finishing In Her Own League by Liz Tomford. And this reminds me, I need to start going to the library just to read more. Like, even if I'm not checking out a book, it is just a free, chill, relaxing space that you can go and hang out and read. And I don't feel like I have to like buy a coffee or buy anything, spend any money when I go there. So I love that. I know I mentioned that I was reading this book at the beginning of this video, but I don't really give you any other updates throughout the video. Was this my favorite book ever? Not really, but am I gonna walk away from a Liz Tomford book always having a great, fun, spicy time? Yes. If you're in the mood for one of her books, you're going to enjoy it. We were just kind of following our two main characters, Reese and Monty, and what their everyday life was like, being the MLB owner and an MLB coach, falling madly and deeply into unrequited love and lust with one another. There's also the boss and employee trope, and I don't really mind those tropes. They're not like some of my favorite, but I just feel like there wasn't enough plot in this book to like kind of keep it moving along. Like, it wasn't really anchored in anything. I didn't really connect to the characters a ton. I think the most excited I was whenever I saw the characters from the Windy City series in this book, and I just didn't really feel a ton of connection to our two main characters. I liked them. I really like Monty. I'm glad that he's happy, and I liked Reese, and I liked them together. I've read 6 Liz Tomford books in less than a year, and I've realized some things, and one is that there tends to be some repetition sometimes that just doesn't really feel quite necessary. And in my opinion, sometimes it ends up making the characters' feelings or thoughts a little bit redundant just because we keep hearing it a lot. And I also feel like some of these books are just a little too long. They get drawn out, and I definitely felt that way with this one. Not all of her books, but this one I unfortunately did feel that way with. I don't really know where I'm sitting with my rating. I'm thinking like a 3, maybe a 3.5, somewhere in there. And I'm going to be going more in depth on my thoughts for this book since I didn't share a ton of my thoughts for it in this video in my April wrap up that will be coming at the end of this month. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and end off this video here. We did a lot of different things in today's vlog, and I absolutely love filming these ultimate book videos. So if there's anything in particular that you really liked in today's video that you want to see more, or any other things that you would like to see in these videos, please do let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe. It really helps support my channel. And if you watched until this far in the video, comment down below the rocket emoji so I know who the real ones are who watched until the very end. And I think that's gonna be it for me today. I love you guys so much. Hope you're all having an amazing day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.
Nelly!
Kind of like put a little my English.
Anybody else just get a random ringing in their ear? Just me? Okay, have fun and not uncomfortable.
Slay.
Just don't mind that.
Oh, hey.
Just drinking.
I also feel like it, oh, not it farting. Cute.
This table be moaning and groaning more than I do.
Peace.